Welcome to the Alchemy of Success podcast with Dr. Michael Leslie, designed to give smart, ambitious 9-to-5ers the knowledge, insights, and tools they need to live their best life. Let's get started.
Hi, good evening. I'm Dr. Michael Leslie. I'm coming to you from Cartagena, Colombia, where we're still working on getting you what you need to live your best life: tools, inspiration, and knowledge so that you can handle the 4 areas of life that are most important to all of us: our relationships, our health, our self expression, and our well being. So, tonight we have another special guest, Marques Ogden, who is accomplished in many areas. I want to have you watch a brief introduction to him before we start the interview. Marques Ogden, founder and CEO of Ogden Ventures LLC, is a 5-time best-selling author, business coach, and consultant, and the host of the Get Authentic with Marques Ogden podcast. He has been featured in USA Today, Forbes, and Authority magazines, and landed jobs with Amazon, Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan Chase, Cisco, New York Life Insurance, Home Depot, and other major corporations. However, his current success did not come without challenges. After retiring from a successful career in the NFL at age 27, he founded a fast-growing construction company, only to go bankrupt after losing $3 million in 3 months on one project. Rather than wallow in defeat, Marques took a part-time job as a custodian and engineered his way back to the top through hard work, self-discipline, and determination, mining his own struggle as his inspiration. Today, he shares his story, teaching us how to fail forward to success in our own lives. Welcome, Marques Ogden. It's a pleasure to have you here tonight.
How are you, Michael? Thanks for having me on, my friend.
Well, we're going to start with, as you know, this program is about giving people tools, some of its inspiration, a lot of its information and knowledge on how to transform their lives. And so I wanted to start off with uh, the particular incident, and I'm sure there were others that you overcame, and how you use that to get back on your feet, so to speak. So, talk about the incident in particular, and I'm referring to where you lost the money on a project that you had. That might be a good place to start. So, what happened?
So, Michael, I was working in downtown Baltimore for a client that I had had for several years, and the job was for Johns Hopkins Department of Health and Mental Health Laboratory. So, again, it was DHMH, Department of Health Mental Hospital Laboratory. Things were going great. It was a $4 million project. Things were going sensational. We were doing well. Unfortunately, we hit a snag on the project where the site would not dry, and I was the excavation contractor, and I bought what's called the dewatering. So I bought part of my whole scope or package: demolition, grading, hauling, and sedimentary control and dewatering. Unfortunately for me, what happened is when the site wouldn't dry, I was forced to bring in my own people. It was a wage scale job. By the time I got through, after about 90 days of doing a bunch of work, I had had about a $3 million bill that I had to give to the client. But unfortunately, Michael, because I did not get a signed change order, they denied that change order, and I went completely bankrupt in 2013. I lost everything, and I had to start over from rock bottom. And I left Baltimore and I moved to Raleigh, North Carolina in April 2013.
So, this business of the cement not drying, I think that's what I understood. Would you and you had no knowledge that such a thing could happen? So, would you attribute that failure to your lack of preparation for doing that job?
Oh, absolutely. Without a doubt. I did a job that I was unprepared for, I was underfunded for, and I was not ready for. And by doing that job, Michael, I literally put myself in harm's way because it took up a large percentage of our multiple eight-figure job. It was about 20% of our gross revenue from the prior year. But that doesn't sound like much, but there's a snag, which there was an additional almost 20 to 30% was spent to get the job cleared and done. And when you spend that kind of money and it's not paid back to you, it can cause catastrophic issues because I couldn't pay my truckers, my stone, my people, my equipment. It just was a downward spiral that just took place because of me doing something I was not, again, prepared for, funded for, and ready for.
Well, in a situation like that, I think many people would have become completely demoralized. And I remember on another podcast that you were featured on, that you talked about this period of a kind of depression after that incident had taken place. Tell us what that was like for you, the depression stage, and then perhaps you can go on from there to telling us how you pulled yourself out of it. But tell us about what's like to fail at something of a significant magnitude as that was, something that you had put your full faith and your word behind, and not being able to do that. Tell us what that was like, and then maybe you could talk a little bit about how one pulls oneself out of that.
So I literally, when I left Baltimore and I got to Raleigh, I had $400 to my name. I didn't know anybody but my fiance, her family. It was completely starting over. No friends, didn't have anybody to talk to. Like other than I had one good friend back in Baltimore I could talk to. Other than that, nothing whatsoever. And so for me, it was a real big issue because when I got here, Michael, I was broken mentally. I was broken financially. My health was starting to deteriorate because I got hooked on just drinking a bunch of beer, alcohol. Just I couldn't afford any type of liquor because it was way too expensive. But I could get a 12 pack for like $5 and just get drunk on the weekends and just literally just put myself into this horrible, debilitating state of just constant deformation of myself, of my mental capacity, my mental being. So it was absolutely horrific on every level you can think of. There was nothing good going on in 2013 when I moved here from Baltimore. And what really got me going to get my life back was hitting complete rock bottom. And one of my favorite quotes when it comes to rock bottom is by J.K. Rowling, who wrote Harry Potter, the Harry Potter series. She said that rock bottom was the moment that she rebuilt her life. And she wrote Harry Potter in her car, in Starbucks, anywhere and everywhere that she could, just to have the ability to hopefully feed her daughter, her, and get off the streets. And she is now today, Michael, the only billionaire author in the world. And she's given away over a quarter of a billion to charity because she just has that kind of inspiration, hope in that regard. So for me, hitting rock bottom is what I needed to do. And I hit that when I had my spoiled milk moment where somebody's trash and rotten meat and nasty garbage got all over me, Michael. That made me realize that I had to turn on the magic factor. The number one magic factor for everybody is look in the mirror. It's yourself. You're the only constant, no matter what variable environment you are in. You're the constant. You want to change? Like Eric Thomas says, shut up and keep working. And that's reality. And honestly, it took rock bottom for me to shut up, stop complaining, stop whining, stop griping, and get to work. And that's what I did.
Why don't you talk a little bit more about this idea or this concept of rock bottom? Because I think sometimes people think of that as being a place that one does not want to go, right? And but when I heard you speaking about it, what came to mind was that there's some solid foundation there on which to build. You're no longer depending on other people, as you said, to pull you out of it. You're certainly no longer depending on what you were doing before, since that wasn't working too well, right? So you found something that was you could build upon. So that's where I would like you to talk about, what were you able to build upon? What was it that that gave you the foundation that you need, or provided the foundation that you needed to come back?
Well, what happened is, Michael, is I really took full responsibility for my failure, because before that moment, I'm talking about when I moved to Raleigh, when I had no money, when we were basically eating out of soup kitchens. We were going to like the lowliest stores, getting the cheapest stuff like, Hamburger Helper or this, that, and the other, just literally eating anything we could to survive, right, Michael? I still blamed other people. My client, the developer, my partner, my employees. It was just constant deflect, deflect, deflect. And so for me, rock bottom was that actual moment where I said, no, Marcus, you put yourself here. You owned the business. You were the majority owner. You did a bunch of work without a signed change order. You took and trusted somebody's word, and that puts you here. So rock bottom is different for everybody, right? It's that moment where you realize that you're the one that has put you at whatever level that you're at. Period. That's rock bottom, right? So for me, making 825 as a custodian wasn't rock bottom. For me, losing my home, both my cars in the same day, wasn't rock bottom. It wasn't, having no money in the bank. That wasn't rock bottom. What was rock bottom was that spoiled milk moment when I realized that I was the one that caused me to lose my home, my cars, all my money, my credit cards, all these things. And one of my favorite stories is, Michael, is that the bison is the only animal that will go into the eye of the storm, because the bison believes going through the storm, you're going to come out on the other side less scathed. And I'm a Howard University bison. And that, my friend, is the moment I said, now, I didn't know at the time, right, Michael? But that was the moment I said, okay, it's time to be a bison. Dig your heels in and look at that. So, because, ladies and gentlemen, let me get this straight to you. When you have a problem or problems or life hits you in the face, right, which it does to all of us, you can't run from it. You can't run, because the problem is just going to follow you, and it's not going away. So you have to face it head on. And that's what that happened to me, Michael. I stopped running from the storm, and I turned around, dug my heels in like a bison, and went straight at it.
Maybe you could also talk to us a little bit, Marcus, about the experiences that you had prior to this that provided you also with the, I would say, energy, maybe perspective, maybe outlook, or maybe courage, to go into the eye of the storm so you could come out on the other side.
Michael, that's really simple. Being drafted into the National Football League by the Jacksonville Jaguars and being a 22-year-old rookie, and hearing Jack Del Rio, who was our rookie head coach, say these words: Gentlemen, if you want to be successful in life, be your own CEO. I had known Jack, Michael, when he was a linebacker coach for the 2000 Super Bowl champion Baltimore Ravens. He then went to the Carolina Panthers as a D coordinator, and he got his first head coaching job in the National Football League with the Jacksonville Jaguars. And what's awesome about Coach Del Rio, and I didn't even know it, Michael, but when you look at him, you can't tell. He is half Mexican. He was a minority. Del Rio, right? I mean, I didn't even think about it because he looks Caucasian. And what I love about bringing that to light is he was one of the first, not the, but one of the first of his descendants of the Mexican descendant to be a head coach in the National Football League. Him, Ron Rivera, like there's a few, but he really set the tone for me, Michael, because hearing that as a 22-year-old rookie in the NFL, it made me realize, well, all right, if Coach Del Rio can beat the odds, if he can become a head coach, if he can pursue his dream, if he can go after what he wants in life, well, then so can I. So football was always great, but football was just for me a stepping stone to other things. And Del Rio gave me that ability to have what I like to call, right, Michael, attributes over skills. Things like perseverance was tattooed on my right forearm, or determination tattooed on my left forearm, or Rome wasn't built in a day tattooed on my left, my left forearm, right? Those are, I have Atlas on my right forearm. And the more I think about it, right, Michael, a lot of things I have either family-based tattoos or something around attributes. And that's what Coach Del Rio gave me, attributes over skills.
Okay, so we've got a pretty good grasp from what you've said on the kind of mindset you need to have to overcome failure and to move forward. And what I'd like you to segue to now are some of the information, the kinds of information that you needed to acquire in order to rebuild your life. So, talk to us about because there's a lot of ignorance, right, in the world about what one needs to know. I notice you have a degree from Howard University with a focus on finance, right?
Mhm.
So, and I know there are a lot of people that are lacking in financial skills. Some of them are lacking in relationship skills. Others are lacking simply in organizational skills, right? How to get stuff done, you have a plan, all of those kinds of things. So, I wanted, if you would, like I say, the nitty gritty of what kinds of information you were able to acquire and how that propelled you forward on further on this, a descendant that you are now.
So, what I look at, right, Michael, is the four C's to take your life to where you want it to go: clock, calendar, communication, consistency. So, let's talk about clock and calendar. People who want to be successful, they have to learn how to be either dedicated and or disciplined. So dedicated is you love something, but it's doing the things that you don't like to do in order to be great at what you love to do. For example, I was not loving two-a-days when I was playing in the NFL or even college, whatever. Two-a-days was not my favorite, right? It wasn't. But I was practice it 2 days, double practices, so two practices per day. That was not my thing, Michael. I did not enjoy that. I did not love it, but I was dedicated. I went to every practice 2 days if it's in the same day. I didn't miss training camp. I didn't do any of that stuff. If I was hurt, I was hurt, but if I could get on off the field and play, I was going to play. I was dedicated to my craft. I was dedicated to going to the gym to be as big and strong as I could because I loved football, loved it more than anything. But the dedication it took for workouts, mindset, all that, that's what I had to work at. So that's dedication, right? Discipline is doing things that you must do and doing it for something that you don't like to do. So, for example, a lot of people don't. I mean, a lot of people don't like to go through the process of losing weight. Okay, well, you got to be disciplined and eat right and go to the gym and take care of yourself. So, if you don't like that, then you have to be disciplined to do it, which I am. I'm so disciplined now, Mike. I've lost 30 pounds since December of 2024 once I realized I could do better in that area with watching what I eat, not so much sugar, watching my glucose intake, boom, here it is, right? So there's the dedication and the discipline. So clock and calendar work hand in hand. If you're not managing your time and your schedule, it will manage you. And I tell people, if you want to get ahead in life, if you want to be forward thinking, if you want to be innovative, if you want to create the life that you want for yourself, you have to take full advantage of your clock and your calendar. As Bill Gates says, right? No matter, sorry, not Bill Gates, Warren Buffett says, no matter how much money I make, I can never buy back time. It's not possible. So you have to take control of your calendar and your clock. Communication. If you can't express yourself to where people understand you and want to work with you or want to collaborate with you, then it's not going to work. People have to understand. You have to communicate in the most simplistic form where everybody you're speaking to, right, Michael, can understand you clearly. And that's what I've worked on over the last 12 years of my career in this industry. And I'll be working on to the day that I die. And then it comes down to consistency. Again, doing things and showing up every single day. You want to lose weight? You can't work out every once in a while. You can't eat right every once in a while. You want to be successful in business? You can't show up every once in a while. You can't have a good day, and get things done every once in a while. If you want to be focused on something, you can't just think about it every once in a while. You got to be consistent. So that's the nitty gritty. And you know what, Michael? A lot of people don't want to do it because a lot of people don't want to really manage their clock or their schedule. And a lot of people don't want to be consistent. A lot of people can communicate to a standpoint, like people can understand them, and that's probably the easiest one out of the four. But most people, Michael, they don't. Like for me, right? I don't have an alarm clock, right? I get up to go to the gym at 5 o'clock in the morning, take care of stuff. Like I don't have an alarm clock. I have not used an alarm clock since I was in college playing college football. Not going to change because that's just who I am. So, again, ladies and gentlemen, manage your clock, your calendar, communicate with some sense of understanding, and be consistent in everything that you do.
Excellent. So here's something I think that becomes a stop for people, and that's in terms of those four C's: being consistent in managing their clock, their calendar, their time. uh, it becomes difficult for them or a challenge for them because they are doing something or they're after something that perhaps is not really in alignment with what they really want. I talk about this in a book that I've written called How to Get What You Really Want, that there's something really fundamental is identifying what that thing actually is, or some people would say what your passion is. So, in your case, from what you've told us, you were always passionate about football, and you did that and you did it successfully until you didn't. You retired from it and to do something else. So, I suppose the question is twofold. One of them is, how does one get in touch with one's passion such that one is willing to be consistent and organize oneself and so on and to reach it? And the other is not only getting in touch with it, but how does one maintain the connection with that passion in spite of, shall we say, life's emergencies, if you would?
So, Michael, the first thing you have to do is you have to sit down and be real with yourself. And that takes self reflection, that takes self realization, and that takes visualization. And that's what I had to do to find speaking because I was working other jobs, Merrill Lynch, construction. These were things just to pay the bills. And again, if you have a job to pay the bills, to take care of your responsibilities, I completely understand and you have my full support. What I will say to you is that if you have any free time and you feel that itch or you feel that, man, that, as Michael said, what you're doing is not in alignment, or worse yet, what you're doing is not your goal. Darren Hardy says one of the keys to building your successful life is make sure what you are doing is your goals, right? And he also says make sure that your goals are aligned with your values. So you have to really dig and have a conversation with yourself around that aspect. And when you do, really sit down and figure out what you love to do. That's going to be your passion, right? And then from there, you need to go ahead and find the why in which you're passionate about that item. So why am I passionate about speaking? We offer self-confidence and self-belief enhancement through our keynote speaking, business coaching, corporate consulting, being a best-selling author, and our podcast. That's what we offer. That's our why. That's what it's all about. I was interviewing somebody on my podcast today talking about that same phenomenon. And I'm Michael all about this is me, right? From The Greatest Showman, this is me, this is who I am. And a lot of times we get into something for the wrong reason. We're chasing money, we're chasing fame, we're chasing notoriety. And I hear you, right? I really do hear you. But here's the thing, those things are short lived. Because if you do get those things, but you don't love what you're doing, at some point, don't know when, don't know how, at some point, you will burn out. It's not a question of if, it's just when. So again, you need to really have a self dialogue with yourself. And then from there, understand why you chose that item. And then that will always be your, what I call your guiding light.
Now, the process of doing that is what I'd like to uh, delve into a little further, Marcus. This process of introspection and self discovery. There are obviously many modalities that can assist one in doing that. I know I'm familiar with one that's offered by Landmark Education, a 3 week or 3.5 day forum in which you look at yourself and your life and your relationships and discover uh, discover something about yourself that you didn't know. But let's put it that way: the knowing of which transforms how you live your life. But I know there are other approaches to doing that. Some people do it through meditation. I read on your one of the or I heard on one of the podcasts in which you were featured that you are consistent in doing a kind of therapy with yourself so that you can continue to discover yourself and to bring yourself forward. Perhaps you could talk about the actual process of discovering oneself beyond the words of, well, take a look at yourself and discover who you are. But what's the how to of doing that?
So the how to is you can try to do it by yourself, which a lot of people do, which is fine. Sometimes it's successful, sometimes it's not. Or you can do what I did, and I went through therapy, and I ended up having to do some real soul searching. So I filed for divorce, Michael, from my spouse. I filed divorce from her in July of 2022, and it was hard. Like, let me tell you something, man. That was a really rough about 6 months being in the same house with her, waiting for the mediator to meet with her to create a temporary agreement for me to then move out. That was hard. And when I finally moved out, I had been in therapy, but boy, oh boy, Michael, it was still hard. Like, who am I? I'm not married anymore. Well, what happened? My father got divorced. Now here I am. I'm a failure, blah, 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 blah. It was so much negative self-talk. So I really dug in with my therapist and got into the heart of the matter. And what I realized, Michael, for so long, I was always putting other people first, right? My mother, my ex-wife, her parents, like I was constantly putting others before myself to give myself what I needed to make my life better, to be able to be better for others. So we did some real digging, peeling back the onion, and it took a good, 18 to 24 months. It took a good amount of time. I met with him every week, and we had things to do. I had assignments. It was really deep. But when it got to the point of me seeing, okay, if I do buy this for myself, it's okay. I can spend $80 to myself, $100 to myself. I can, Michael, I didn't vacation at all, because I was constantly working. If I'm going to Cabo for work, I'll grab a day or so of vacation. That's not a vacation. That's a workcation. So I said, okay, go on vacation. It was just something small to the mountains in North Carolina for a week, get in touch with who you are. And that's what it took, Michael. It took months and hours of countless dedication to perfecting putting myself first with self-care and things of that nature. So it was a real process. At the end, I came out much better on the other side, thank goodness. But again, right, Michael, it took time to get to this point. So I'm so glad that I did, because without it, right, Michael, who I am today, confident, sure of myself. I have lots of friends. I can be by myself. I can hang out with people. I'm dating. I know what I want in a relationship, what I don't want. I'm a father to both my girls, 21 and 10. I do all these things. I'm in church now. I'm back to again, these are things that I need to do for me. So I'm a much better individual today because I put the work in to be the best version of myself at this moment.
Great. So let's talk a little bit more about self care. I think a lot of people, as you said, their idea of getting ahead is to grind and grind and grind, right? And in some ways, you've shared, at least in your past life, and maybe even in your present life, that you're in what some people would call a grinder. I mean, you're putting in the time, you're putting in the work, you're showing up every day, you're relentless is my would be my word for it. So I'm very much interested, and I think some of us on this podcast tonight very much interested in how one takes care of oneself while being consistent and dedicated and and aspiring and working, and that it seems like the two of those things are a contradiction. So talk to us about.
It's funny, Michael? What you said at the end is such a true statement, but it's such the wrong statement because it's not the case. So many people think that self care and grinding contradict, and in reality, it does not. I don't think I've ever talked about this on anybody else's podcast. I've mentioned it on mine several times lately, but I'm a bit even more real and vulnerable with here for a moment. My parents divorced right around the time my dad was 39, 40 years old, right around there. When my parents were married, my dad looked young. He was 39. He looked like he was in his early 30s. He took care of himself. He did the things he needed to do. I mean, I don't know if he did self-care, but he just took better care of himself. Between the age of 40 to 45, Michael, my father aged drastically. Like his hair all turned gray. He had stopped taking care of himself. He just started to, unfortunately, I really believe the stress and him and the divorce, all these things, the lack of finances, putting me and my brother through high school, and then we both got full scholarships to college, but putting us through high school, which was a private high school for both of us. By the time my dad got to 45 years old, Michael, he was pretty much broke. He didn't really have much of a social life. He just really was about his sports, which is amazing. And I love him for that. But knowing who I am now as a father of two daughters, I'm very mad at my dad. Very mad at him for not putting himself first. He died at 57 years of age. And looking back on it, Michael, my dad didn't do any type of real self care. So, self care is doing things for yourself that are going to refill your cup. So when you go to work to grind, you have the energy to grind. People say, Marcus, why do you get up at 5 o'clock in the morning to go to the gym? What's wrong with you? You're crazy. You need sleep. I do get sleep. But for me, getting to the gym and working out, releasing those endorphins and getting my blood pumping, all that, it gives me energy, Michael, to have a great day. Right? It's where we at 7:30 at night, right, man? I have as much energy now as I did when I started my day with my first call at 7:30 this morning, right? I was basketball, 5 in the morning for the gym, did the whole thing with the guys, all, and that's what I do. I played 3 games of basketball. It was upper body today. It was core. Right, got a haircut. Boom. Calls on the way. You got it. Da 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 da. You name it. I'm on it. Ladies and gentlemen, self care are doing things that you enjoy to give you the energy that you need to do the best you can in your craft. So I get pedicures every 2 weeks, facials when I get my hair cut, massages, physical therapy, sleep. I like my little movies things, these little treats here or there, right, Michael? Like these things are necessary for me to do and give my best every single day to my clients, coaching clients, speaking clients, you name it. I'm all about it. So, again, my friends, self care is about doing whatever that is that you like to do that refills your cup so that you can continue to give the best version of you in all that you do. And that's what it is. And again, Michael, love my father more than anything. He raised us as a single dad. And I would tell him this to his face if he was sitting right here. Dad, you should have taken better care of yourself to give yourself an opportunity to have a longer life. And I would tell him that, Michael, if he was sitting right here in my face.
Well, I like the way you opened up the concept of self care so that we can see it as actually being something essential to being able to do what we want to accomplish in life. So, thank you for doing that. So, walk us through. We have about 10 minutes left. So, why don't you walk us through what your day looks like, and your typical day. Uh, what is it like to be Marcus when you wake up in the morning? What happens? Give us a blow by blow, and I call it uh, it's called vivid a vivid portrayal or vivid sharing of what your day looks like. If you want to use today, that'd be great.
Yep, I surely will. So woke up this morning at I woke up this morning at 4:45, got up, made my bed, grabbed my vacuum cleaner. Every single day, Michael, I vacuum the area that I walk in my bedroom. Okay. I then brush my teeth, wash my face, get myself ready to go, dress for the gym. I then vacuum my walk-in closet. I vacuum the hallway that I walk down to my steps in my home. After that, take my dog out to go potty, feed him, hop in the car, drive about 30 minutes each way to the gym, get there about 5:45. Today was basketball, so I played 3 games of full court pickup. Then I had my upper body lift. So I go upper lower off, upper lower total body, some type of additional cardio. I'm always doing cardio about 6 times a week. So that's my schedule. So today was upper, then core, basketball, left the gym, went and got a haircut, got my haircut, got in the car, hopped into the calls. Coaching calls, client calls, sales calls, you name it, right? I had a sales call, 9:15, coaching call, 9:30, had another sales call at 10, all this stuff, right? Got home. I ended up taking care of everything around the house, getting everything prepped, cleaning sure it's clean. I'm very clean about my environment, being clean and organized. That was done. Got myself ready. Had a couple more coaching client calls from 12:30 until 3:30. I'm sorry, until 3 podcast. I was interviewing people on my podcast. I have my daughter today. So my daughter, she was here with me. I ended up taking her to her Glee Club practice this afternoon. I had a sales call. Then I had our inner game community coaching call. That's for our mastermind group. That was great. 4:30 had a coaching call. 5 o'clock picked up my daughter from Salem Singers. Took her to get something to eat. Had a coaching call at 5:30 to 6. Took an hour break. Boom. Here I am on this awesome podcast. When I'm done here, I got my pork chops in my skillet ready to turn on and cook for dinner. Boom, eat my dinner. Boom, bedtime by 9:30, the latest. I'll put on a nice little Scott Atkins. I've got my Scott Atkins, Ninja 2 Shadow of a Tear on the TV right now, ready to finish playing. Boom. Watch that. I'm out, be up in the morning. Tomorrow's off from the gym, but I will still straighten up, clean up all this stuff, and start my day always the same. My bed gets made, my room gets vacuumed, brush my teeth, wash my face. My walk-in closet gets vacuumed. That strip of where I walk down gets vacuumed every single day. That's how I roll.
I one of the things that is clear in your sharing of your day is that there's a definite order to it all, and there's also definite, I would say, s- structure and cleanliness. I was going to hesitate to say that, but order and cleanliness seem to be very important. I was thinking too about people who have a lot of clutter around them. They're working, but they're working in an environment, as you said, that's not supportive of being able to accomplish what they want to accomplish. So I'm really glad that you mentioned that part, and that I hope that many of our people listening to us will be paying attention to the environment in which they're doing their work, or from which they're doing their work. Do you want to
Three
say something about
three
that?
things, three things, Michael, that create the life that you want for yourself. Environment, input, associations. Where are you spending your time? What area, what location, what venue are you spending your time in? How does it look? Is it clean? Is it organized? Can you think clearly? Is it clutter? You're decluttering your mind. Everything around you is just in disorganization or chaos. An environment is going to get you in the right mood. Input. What are you listening to? What are you watching? Your brain was designed to keep you alive, not to make you happy. So if you're trying to do things around anxiety, stress, if you're feeding your mind that anxiety, stress, all that, it picks up on it and it causes you stress. It causes you anxiety, it causes you more problems. Input's important. Then associations. Who are you hanging around? That's how I met you, through Jason Wilson. Again, you have limited association. I'll hang out with you somewhat. Disassociation, I'm good. Expand association. I like you. I want to get to know you better. Let's vacation together. So again, environment, input, associations. When those three are in alignment or in check, your life is going to be much richer and much more fulfilled. Trust me.
And finally, let's have you speak about relationships, in particular, intimate relationships. So I understand that you're not, and well, I made that up. I don't know whether you're in one or not at this point. But my question was, what's the role of the relationship that we might have in sustaining us or not in the pursuit of what we want to have in life?
I saw a great quote by Mark Zuckerberg. Stay away from the girls and find a woman that's going to be by your side and make you better along your journey. Girls or little girls are not going to get you where you want to go. A woman that's going to be there for you, support you, push you when you don't want to be pushed, get you out of your comfort zone when you're like, I don't want to do this today. Well, go, you're going to do it anyway. That's a woman. And when you have, as a man, I'm speaking from a male perspective, when you have a woman that's in your life like that, that's gold. Because finding someone to push you, partner with you, do this thing we call life together, that's really, really awesome. But it's also very hard to find. And I tell people that's why I feel, Michael, the divorce rate's so high. People want to jump into a relationship quick. I just met you. Let's be boyfriend and girlfriend. I met you a month ago. Let's get married. All these things. Do you know the person? Do they know you? Do you know how they are when they get upset? Do they know how you are when you get upset? How do you communicate? How do you all agree on money? What's your agreement on raising kids? What's your agreement on how to spend your spare time? If you like the ocean and she likes the mountains, and nobody's gonna learn to compromise, that's not gonna work. If somebody wants to live on the West Coast, but you're an East Coast girl or East Coast guy, and nobody wants to compromise, that's not gonna work. So you have to find who's aligned with you, right? And again, right, Michael, who's going to push you when you don't want to be pushed? Who's going to say, get out of your comfort zone? You're like, let me stay right here. Who's going to tell you, get rid of those friends or people you think are friends because they're not your friends, and level your game up? That's a woman. That's a partner from a male perspective. And that's what you need, I feel, to help you when you're looking for somebody to connect with or be with. That individual that's going to push you and don't want to be pushed, and elevate you when you want to stay right in your box.
Well, thank you, Marques Ogden. This has been really a pleasure and an education. We've been talking to the CEO of Ogden Ventures, who is a coach, an author, a speaker, uh, an entrepreneur, and amongst other things. And it's been really a delight to have you tonight and to share your wisdom and your experience with all of us. How do people get in touch with you if they want to avail themselves of your expertise, Marcus?
So we have a website, www.marques, MARQUES, Ogden, OGDEN.com. You can also shoot me an email, Marcus at marcusogden.com. And Michael, you can go and find us on our app. We have the Marques Ogden app. If you have an Android or an Apple phone, go to your app store, type in Marques Ogden. It pops up, it's free. Follow us, connect with us, check out our content, and then check out our podcast. Get Authentic with Marques Ogden.
You've been listening to The Alchemy of Success with Michael Leslie and Marques Ogden. And we look forward to seeing you again on this podcast next week, 7 p.m. Tuesday evening. I hope you enjoyed it. Marcus, thank you again and good night.
Good night, sir.
Thank you for watching the Alchemy of Success podcast. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. See you next week.